Hey everybody,
Recorded?
it's yeah. So you know how this episode's gonna go.
You can edit these bits, hey?
It's Spinja, and I'm back with another episode of Surviving with Spinja. I'm bringing you one of my longtime dearest friends. We well, it, uh, I always joke about what happens when you troll Facebook. Well, that's how Dawn and I met, and this is also how my friend Helen and I met. So this is Helen Downs. We have not met in person, but we've talked to each other. I think it was around 2012. I think that we met, and she lives in Australia, and of course I live in Canada. But we've talked back and forth, and she's been around for for the dumpster fire and the fixing of such. And one of the big reasons I wanted to bring her on, she's been very influential in my life, and she's the author of a book. Hopefully, it'll show up here. It's called. Whoop,
Here it is.
okay, I will. It's called Spirit Seeds.
I'll edit it in.
Oh, Don will put a
There
picture.
you go.
Beautiful. Thank you, Helen. And the book is amazing. She talks about different topics um that sometimes people like think like might be like a little woo woo, and it's not the case. Like, she comes at it from a point of view, like, she's very neutral, and she just explains it matter of factly, and comes from a place of take what resonates and leave the rest. And it's a perfect book. Like, it was the first book that I had that answered a lot of questions, and then had left me with more questions, and encouraged me to dig deeper, and was very important on my journey. And it's even written, like, the way that she's written it. I know you've probably heard me mention my son. His screen name is Ray. He's 16 years old, and he has read her book as well, and it's also answered a lot of his questions. So it is great for all ages.
Two
So,
people that have read it.
yeah, without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Helen.
Greetings. Now what do I say? Oh, dear. Kyler,
Well,
Spinja and I have some interesting, strange, serendipitous things that have happened to us over the years, including seeing a rabbit and a yellow bird out in my backyard, walking inside saying that I feel like I'm in a Disney movie. And then you, at the same time, saw a bunny rabbit and a bird, yellow
yep,
bird,
yep, yep,
and came in and said
yep.
that you thought you were in a Snow White movie or one or the other. Or something.
Yes,
And both,
yes.
and then we keep seeing yellow birds at the same time. I was just saying
Yes.
before, I just saw a bluebird yesterday. The first time I've ever seen a blue parrot. I didn't even know they existed, and there was this one yesterday that I saw. So I'm waiting for you now to see a blue
Yeah.
parrot.
Yeah, I don't know if we have parrots. If I see a blue jay, I think that will be close enough, because that's
Yeah,
something um they were quite common back in Ontario, but here in Alberta, I think I've maybe seen like two or three in the last 2 years that I've been here. So I think that would be a really good test.
yeah.
But
We'll
there
see.
have been some really cool synchronicities. Um I know, I remember another one was when you and your partner, you guys were married the same day that I found out that I was going to be a mom,
That's right.
which was
Yes.
070707.
L
and
777 date.
and then yes, yes, yeah. And
Anyway,
and
enough
then the cat.
about
Yeah,
us.
right.
Oh, yeah, we had matching cats too.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, so I guess like where we're going with this though is that it's real, like even right down to the Libras.
Yeah, that too. And synchronicity is what you were talking about before, and manifesting and such things. And like, as hard as I try to manifest something, it doesn't work that way. I don't think it's got something to do with being patient and letting things unfold. And even when you think that there's obstacles in the way, they're part of the unfoldment. And you've sort of got to remain neutral kind of towards everything and just allow it to unfold. And but but yeah, things do kind of come about strangely and serendipitously. Everything seems to have done that in my life. I haven't planned anything really. I'm making it up as I go along.
Yes, yes. Well, even this whole thing with having a podcast, I never pictured this in a million years.
Yes.
And it was just it was interesting because well, you were the one that encouraged the digging. Like some of the links that you've sent me over the years. Um, so and that's actually how I started was with some of the links that you sent me. Just led me to more information. And it's like, okay, so some things I resonated with, and then I would look up more, and it's like, okay, well that didn't work, and so then that took me on my podcast adventure,
Oh, it's
and
all my
just from
fault.
there. What's that?
It's all my fault. Sorry.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I think no, I think what you did for me is what happened with Dawn, like what I did for Dawn, because you encouraged me to dig. And like that, even that, like I was sitting at my sewing machine at work, and I was listening to these podcasts. And then I heard, and I was trying to get Dawn to listen, and he wanted nothing to do with it. And except I heard this one. I don't know if you've heard his awakening story, and I don't know if I've shared it on my show at all. But he was having a series of nightmares last fall, and I I had heard this one episode on the typical skeptic, and it was Arkeem Raw, and he was talking about his involvement in the secret space program. And the way that he was describing things, it sounded a lot like the nightmares that Dawn was describing. And so I almost had to sit down and like sit on him and make him listen to it. But he started listening, and then it resonated with him. And then that's where he started his digging. And
Mm.
yeah, I just it's really, you never know who you're going to inspire either. Like you start talking about these things, and you just say something, and it just might trigger somebody to go off on a trail. And it's
Mm.
it's really cool.
Yeah.
And so, did you want to talk about your book? I know, like we talked about it, and you're like, "Oh, you put that out I put that out a long time ago." And like, it's still, it's very important. And like what inspired you to write it? Like, how did it come about? Like, that's something that
Well,
we've never actually talked about.
oh, okay. Well, at the time, I had a little, like a new age shop, or what it was, like a combination of art and clothes and decorative things, and books about these kind of subjects, which was good because I got to read all the books while I had them in stock. And some people would come into the shop, and there'd be a bloke there, and he'd say, "So what's all this stuff about?" and and I'd try and summarize what all of this stuff is about, which basically led to me writing the book, to just try and summarize what's all this stuff about, because it's all in separate little areas, and it doesn't have a common thread sometimes to run through for people to make the connection of, I don't know, these things that happen in your life that are outside of the normal, and you don't have a pigeonhole to file them in, so they just kind of float around there and they don't make any sense in your consciousness. So it was just an attempt to try and put some things down, draw some. It's kind of like saying, if you stand here and look at it from this angle, it might make sense. That sort of thing.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And
Well, no,
yeah, I don't know. I haven't even read it for ages. So, but just bits and pieces of just bits of information from various places. And I'm a bit eclectic like that. I just pick up different things. But yes, but the thought that I've had lately has been along the lines of the basic flaw in the scientific method, which, you know how we have a brain and we have a left and a right hemisphere, and the right hemisphere rules the mythical, intuitive, unconscious side, and the left side rules the rational, logical, etc. So given that that's the model of the whole makeup of everything, why is it that science, when it does tests, when it proves things, it only ever uses the left brain part of the equation? They don't take into account that there is a right brain, that there are these mythical experiences, that there is something else. And somebody else has made the distinction between left brain and right brain. I always get them mixed up because they're opposite sides, but that the left brain is about knowledge, but the right brain is about wisdom. And you can have all the
yes,
knowledge in the world, but unless you know how to put that knowledge together, and that comes from an inspired place, it comes from looking outside of the knowledge and seeing how it joins up, or joining the dots, or seeing across it rather than seeing each individual fact. So, anyway, so why does science not take that into account when they do their scientific equations and or their analyses of what is real in this world? Because there's a lot more that's real that's outside of the scientific model that's not being acknowledged. That's one part of it. There's another part of it that
yes, yes,
goes, okay, so you've got your feminine and your masculine sides. The rational is the masculine side and the intuitive is the feminine side. So when an intuition strikes you and you go, oh, I should go into that bakery for no particular reason because I'm on a diet and I shouldn't, but something says, nudge, go into the bakery. Your logical side steps in and goes, no, 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 you're on a diet, you shouldn't do that, and steers you away. Okay, so every time you let your logical side rule over your intuitive side, you're effectively doing the same thing as, um, what is that word? Domestic abuse. You know, like when women are being domestically abused by their husbands or partners, or, and I'm speaking very generally, and all of this would, you know, have its
yeah, yeah,
variation, but you're letting your masculine side not take any notice of, discount, put down, disregard your feminine side. So within each of us, we have a magnetic anchor of that concept. And if we rid ourselves of that as a practice that we do within ourselves, then we demagnetize that within ourselves, which externally, in theory, should make that condition fall away in the outside world as well. Because we're all holding magnetic cores of concepts
yeah,
that we see projected out there in the world. And the less we create them within ourselves, the less we're creating them out there as a collective, I mean. So
yeah,
if
yeah.
collectively we stopped letting our rational side put down and disregard our intuitive side, then that would start happening out there as well in the masculine, feminine. That's my theory anyway. But, yeah.
I can see how that works. Um, so is that um so, so I've been doing some digging like like sort of around that like what you're saying is just tying in with what I'm finding. And so one of the things I'm trying to understand is ego. So is that the left side? Like would it be
Um,
associated with the left side or the
well,
masculine, or is that something different?
um, I don't know if I've don't know if I've run it through the left side, right side filter, but
Okay.
essentially, in order to exist in this plane, what we are energy that has to put on clothing, as it were, in order to appear in this reality. And the ego
Yep.
is just, I suppose, your choice of how you're going to dress to appear on the stage.
Okay.
It's and it's. I don't think it's a bad thing, a good thing. It just it is so that it's a
Yeah.
vehicle. It's a vehicle, and it's your choice of vehicle. It's up to you as to what you want, how you want to display, as it were, when you appear in this reality.
Well, and I wonder, because like a lot of us, most of us have gone through a lot of stuff, and like like we've been through a lot of trauma, and we're like we're going through healing and things like that. And I've seen like some of the some places or some people say about ego that you need to kill it, and I don't think that's a good idea either. I've been under the impression that there have been times where my ego has actually protected me.
Yeah, it's as Shirley Strawn of the Great Late Skyhooks band from Australia would say, ego is not a dirty word. Um, it's like, this is one of the things we have to stop keep judging against everything. Everything just is, and everything has its place. And if it's in its right place, it's better than if it's not in its right place. Um, 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 but it comes back to, this concept of when they say, oh, you've got to love yourself, and it's like, oh yeah, no, it's, we can all pretend we can love ourselves for the parts that we love, but it's, what about the bits you don't like? What about the bits you think are wrong? What, when you say, oh, my ego's, out of, oh, we've got to be able to love and appreciate those parts of ourselves too, because they're there for a reason too. Like,
Mhm.
um, and it's like, when a child's not being heard, and a child's going, Mom, I've got to tell you this thing, and they're pushing them away. They just need to be heard and acknowledged, and then they can step forward with whatever it is that they're experiencing and kind of go through the process. But if you're not even being heard, you can't even get past that point. And there's a whole pile of parts of ourselves that aren't being heard because we're pushing them away, thinking they're bad or something like that, rather than trying to understand why are they there. Because there's parts of me that I've thought have been bad, but they've actually led me to where I am, because there mightn't have been another way. And I'm not saying I've done anything bad. I'm just saying, things where you judge against yourself and that kind of thing. They still, it's like a river. It's like a river where you've got the flow of the river, but you've also got the banks that hold the flow to a certain path. And if it weren't for those banks, you'd just be like this spread out thing that didn't know where it was, if you know what I mean. Like, the banks are as much a part of the river as the river is. And so even though they're restrictive, or that they hold you into a certain pattern, they're there sort of for a reason. I'm not speaking very
Mhm.
clearly at the moment, but
No, I no, I see what you're saying. Um, I know,
so
yeah, this is one of the, yeah, I understand what you're saying. And I'm getting a brain fart right now.
it's all right. So it's kind of
I
just a matter of even accepting the parts of you that you don't think are acceptable, to
okay,
acknowledge them.
okay, yes, yes, yeah,
And
and
then
well, and I
that's
think
not to
that's
say that you have to stick with them. Like, if you're not happy with them and you think that they should change, then make efforts to change them. But, then it comes back to that
yes,
wisdom, the prayer of St. Francis or whatever, to know the things you can change, to accept the things you can't
yes,
change, and the wisdom to know the difference,
yes,
kind of. Well, there's lots of things we don't need to change. We just need to accept and be more cool
yes.
with them. Like, I'm a
Well,
lazy
that's
jag.
one.
I'm getting used to it now.
Well, that's something like I'm starting to understand on my healing journey, because I have been my own worst critic and beating myself up about a lot of the decisions that I've made. And I know that a lot of people will be able to relate to this. And but I've also taken into account, like I've stripped a lot of stuff back, and I know, like, since we've talked, like I've analyzed a lot of stuff in regards to my father, and I get it now, and I forgive him, and I know that it wasn't him that did, like, all the bad stuff at the end there. I know it wasn't him. And even, like the stuff that he did, like while I was growing up, and all that, I know now he did the best that he could with what he did, or with what he
Yeah,
had. And it was the same with mom.
yeah, and that's a sort of a general principle with everyone, really. They're all doing the best they can in their circumstances. Everyone, um, even people that are doing shitty things, that's still the best that they can do at the time. I don't know. I think we just need to give people credit for everyone's on their own path, and it may or may not work in with our own desires. But yeah, there was something
Well, and
else
it
there. But
it's and
yeah.
it's okay. It is making sense though. And that's, like, I think it's very important that we do be gentle with ourselves, but also gentle with the people in our lives too, and take a step back, put ourselves in their shoes, and look at everything from all of the angles. I know, like, with doing that, that has helped me immensely to forgive, like, the people, but also to forgive myself, because there's been a lot of things that I've beat myself up over. And like, when I start feeling down, it's like, okay, take a look at the situation at the time. Did you see any other option? Could you have done anything differently? No? Then that's the way it is. If you could have, you would have.
Mm,
And I think a lot of people might not see that. And like, so please take that into perspective. Like, look at everything. If you had a choice, would you have made that decision? Or if you saw that you had choices?
mm. Yeah, all of that. And going back to that critical voice in the head thing, there was a period of time when my husband was on his way towards dying that I spent a lot of time, playing a phone game, just to blank out everything else. And but what I noticed during that time was the voice in my head would be going, "Oh, look, you're stuffed up there. Oh, you're never going to come back from that." Like whatever move you make, it's giving you this critic. And over a period of time, I observed it and noticed that it wasn't right. Like, even though that didn't
Oh,
work, something else worked after that. So, so then I kind of went, "Oh, hang on a sec, you're bullshit. Go away," and basically dismissed the voice in my head as a inaccurate, critical part that didn't need to be there. And yeah, we've all got that just going on all the time.
yeah.
But we need to treat ourselves the same way as you would treat a child that you're trying to nurture, um, and care for, rather than being down on ourselves all the time. And yeah, that kind of thing. If we can't even do that with ourselves, how is Israel going to do it with Palestine, or vice versa? Like, if we can't try and understand or bridge the gap, as it were. Yeah, that kind of thing.
Um, okay, so that I had a question. Wow, I'm so fascinated, and then I come up with a question, and then I'm just I'm
While you're
I'm
doing it,
still hanging on every word here.
here, this is just a filler for you in the meantime. This is the first edition of my book, and I'm showing you because this is a collage that I made. And I was going to say that the process of art, is a really interesting
Yes.
process when you want to get in touch with, I don't know, your subconscious, your intuition, things like that. I do a lot of collages, where you cut out pictures and from magazines and things and juxtapose them to make other pictures. And it's incredible the number of times you think, "Oh, I need such and such," and then you you find a picture, you find something that you've cut out that just fits exactly in the little space that you need it to fit, like just the synchronicities that happen in the creation of art itself. And people go, oh, but I'm not artistic. And it's like, you don't need to be, you just need to engage in the process in order to see what comes out. And it's a good way of, I don't know, just discovering things, discovering links with your intuition, that kind of thing.
Oh, oh yes, yes. Oh, I agree 150%. Um, so that's exactly what I experienced with spinning. Um, like the first we've talked about my wheel, and
Yes.
yeah, and if you want to share your insights after I nerd out a little bit, um, but like the first time I sat down at my spinning or at a spinning wheel, I was having a really bad day. That's an understatement. And but when I sat down at the wheel, it's just like everything melted away. And like, and I said this at the time, and I had no idea what I was saying, but it was I get it now. I said I felt like I was whisked away into another dimension and nothing mattered. And I had no idea what I was talking about then, but yeah, I pretty much was like literally I was not there.
Mm.
And but I was in a happy place. And like that's what spinning has done for me. Like even and like when my mom was really sick, and she knew that her time was coming to a close here, um she made arrangements to pay for my spinning course. And and that was my Christmas gift that year. And she said to me, I like and she didn't believe in giving Christmas gifts early. Like it drove her nuts. She hated to have to do that, but she didn't know. So she said, I'm going to give this to you now. And she says, I know you're going to need this. And she was absolutely right. Like spinning has been a huge part in my coping with her crossing over,
Mm.
not being physically here. She's still here, but that's a whole other show.
I don't know
But
enough about
and
it,
so
but I'm
what
sure there has to be some sort of a spinning vortex thing that you create with that. There must be an energetic aspect to it, I reckon.
Dawn
Yeah.
just said, it's alchemy.
Yeah.
You're
And you're spinning gold.
transforming it in.
Sorry, what?
What's that?
You're transforming it into its purest form. It's alchemy.
Oh wow. he yeah.
Yeah.
He just said, I'm transforming it into its purest form.
Yes. Can
That's
you do it with dog hair?
I, you can. That was
Oh.
one of the that's why I'm acquiring huskies.
Yeah, I was
You
kind of thinking that. I have a friend that's got
yeah,
a
no,
large dog like that with drops a lot of fur, and I'm thinking, oh, I wish there was a spinning person that lived near there. But yes. There was another thing that I've been thinking lately, and it's about beliefs,
yes, yes.
because like people, it's really important at the moment to try and discern truth from what's not truth, and
Yeah.
which is totally confusing because it's like the narrative is setting it up so that we can't even trust our own feeling on anything. But it occurred to me that it doesn't matter what you believe to a certain extent, as long as it serves the purpose of getting you from point A to point B, which I'll just use as a random example. Say somebody is seeking the comfort of having a community or support around them, things like that. So they might meet some people from a church group, and they might become part of a church because they find that the company that they're keeping, they're nice people, the people are being nice to them, they have a feeling of belonging, they have a feeling of support. And then take on the beliefs of the religion as part of what they've stepped into. But that's a whole subtopic in itself. But what I'm getting at is that the belief is something, it's like a taxi that carries you from point A to point B, but you don't necessarily have to hold on to a belief beyond a certain point. And once it's gotten you to where you needed to get, once you've got
Yeah.
to that sense of community or support or that kind of thing, you may or may not choose to hold on to the beliefs that underpinned that. My brain's going in two different directions. I'm just trying to work out which one to follow. Just religion, spirituality and religion, that's another thing too. There's a whole pile of people out there that are saying, oh, I'm an atheist because religion's stupid. And it's like, yeah, but religion is not spirituality. It's somebody's structure around what started off as a spiritual idea. And, you know, throw in all the control mechanisms and manipulations that have taken place, which we know, I mean, everything's been manipulated for thousands of years now. So we have to get back to the core of what's real, as opposed to the window dressing that's been put around it. And when people say, oh, there's not a God because he wouldn't be, why would it be like that? Why would religion do this, blah, blah, blah. If you take out the religious factor and just think in terms of that everything's connected somehow, and it's whatever that thing is that binds everything together, whatever that glue is, that everything is part of all of one thing. That's what I would choose to call God. And I'm pretty sure that exists because it just does, doesn't it? The unity of consciousness that binds all things together. And yeah. So it's just, I think a lot of people miss out on even thinking, I don't know, thinking with the right brain, left side, intuitive side, or their spiritual nature, our essential spiritual nature, because they think that somehow that's associated with religion, which it may or may not be. I'm not saying that all religions are skew. I'm just saying that, you know, there are considerations that have been heaped on top of religion that may or may not need to be there, but that the essential truth of this connection that we all share is something worth being aware of. Further, because especially now in these times, like everything's changing and we kind of don't even know how to prepare ourselves because we don't know what's coming. And if you take it in a physical sense, you know, you've got preppers that stock up a lot of food and all of that, which is great. But what happens if the great apocalypse breaks out and you're on the wrong side of town and you can't get back home and you can't get to your stores? All of a sudden you're there anyway. What it comes down to is we need to be able to trust what our gut is telling us. We need to be able to tune in a very real here and now sense to where we need to be and how we need to proceed. And there's no problem with preparing if you can, but also being aware that all the prepping in the world might not prepare you for whatever it is that you have to go through. And when it comes to that, you have to be able to rely on God speaking to you within yourself, if you put it that way.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, you're not going to start looking up a Bible and going, oh, what do I do now? You might. I mean, you know, it can speak to you that way too. But it needs to be a heartfelt connection within yourself as to how you connect with the divine part and how you receive guidance, I suppose. So, yeah, just that's just to encourage people to tune in. And the other thing too is that we keep forgetting to ask. Like, you know, like in Star Trek, there's the Prime Directive. They can't intervene unless you're asking, kind of thing.
Yes.
So there's a million things that we could every day just practice on, like, oh, you know, ask your higher self to help you find that thing you can't find, or just, you know, just little practical things, you know, get the parking space, all of those kind of things. But we keep thinking that we have to come up with solutions ourselves rather than remembering to ask for help and to ask for guidance, and also to ask, I think I've come to believe that we are the ones that call forth angels. Like, I think they exist in a void, and until such time as they're called forth for a specific purpose, they don't exist, and then they do exist and they go forth and do that purpose. So you could sit there, if you were inclined, you could sit there all day just calling forth angels to go and attend to that thing, to that thing, to that thing. And like, we're the ones that are on this earth in this 3D realm that are seeing what needs attention. We may not have the power
Yep.
to do that thing ourselves, but at least we can bring forth the concept and the thought that something goes and helps that or that. And these are all things that we could be doing every day if we just thought to do it.
Yes.
So go forth and do these things.
Well, this will this might bring a smile to your face. I actually do. Every morning I call a morning meeting with my team. I haven't been able to recognize direct connection with my higher, and I know we all have a team. We have a team of, we have our ancestors, we've got our spirit guides, and and like, some people know their names, some people can connect directly with them and know it. Some people, like me, I know they're there, and I just talk to them anyway. And I know they hear me. So like I was mentioning to you that I've been doing some digging about the law of attraction, and that involves setting intentions. And so first thing in the morning when I get up, like when I'm getting ready for work, so um I do, like, I put a protective barrier around, like an energetic barrier around my home, around my truck, and then myself, and then my family members. And then I set the intention for a good drive to work. And then I want a productive, non-interrupted day. And I also invoke, I call it my invisibility cloak, to those who are of lower vibration. And, like, I'm only visible to those who match my vibration or higher, and keep the interactions positive and minimal to those who don't match. And I've been experimenting with it because I'm like, okay, why not? And it I can't say that it's not working, because things seem to be going pretty smoothly, and it even gets to the point where I get to work, and I have a coworker, and we've become very good friends. So I take that into work, and then we achieve flow state together. Like, we totally lose track of time. 8 hours feels like two.
Mm, cool. Well, I mean, as they say, whatever works for you too. But interestingly, when you say that, when you say you put up a protective barrier, which I understand that there are reasons for doing that, but even to convert that thought into, you're just putting out a glow of love that whatever it touches, it's going to heal and transmute everything else.
Oh,
It's kind of like, what are you protecting yourself against? Because is that saying that out there is bad, something, something is negative? Again, we're judging. It's like, no, you be in your glow. Anything that touches you heals and transmutes, melts away. The world's a better place. And if
I
something
like
shitty
it
happens to
better.
you, it needs to happen for a reason. It might be that the other person needs to hear the wrath of Spinja, or whatever. Like, sometimes when we think that we've been awful or something, maybe it's because the other person needed to have that for their process. So, like,
Oh, wow.
we talk against ourselves in all sorts of ways unconsciously. So that's another way to look at it too.
I appreciate that. No, I'm going to shift that and see how that works, because, well, I'll say, like, I went the protection angle because it's
It's
because of the
natural for all of
past.
us,
Like,
right? Like, we all feel like, oh God, we're in this world and everything's out there. And yeah, I know the feeling totally.
but no, I like that, and you know what? I'm going to give that a shot and see how that goes, because it will only bring in good things.
She
Yeah,
literally
and
just
it's
gave
like,
me
sorry, listening.
What were
Go
you
on.
saying?
literally just gave me a consciousness shift.
He said you literally just gave him a consciousness shift.
Oh, yay. That's the second time this week. No, I'm just kidding. That's,
The
Oh, that's so cool. Oh yeah, I think you just broke his brain. This is awesome.
oh, goody. I was just listening to another
Oh,
video podcast the other day, or another video the other day, and I'm not even sure if I can remember it correctly to reiterate, but basically it's a reminder that this is us. We're God in a human dense body, enacting our will and seeing
yeah,
seeing how it plays out, and that we can dream big things too. They can be just as easy as the little things if we get it on the right angle.
that's what I'm understanding, and that's the other thing that I'm starting to see too, is that um and it ties in with exactly what you said about us being gods. We're creators, and everybody here is a creator, whether they know it or not. And that's the issue with all of this, is that that's the knowledge that has been suppressed. That's what we're working on unlocking right now,
Mm.
because so many people right now, they're just running on autopilot. So they're creating without even knowing that they're creating. And like I've learned, like the universe is inclusive. So whatever you think about, positive or negative, you're going to pull it in.
Mm.
And so if you don't know that you have the ability to consciously create, and you're running on autopilot, that's where all the crap happens.
And like there's always going to be these other layers of us that are running on autopilot, because like we can't know all of our subconscious consciously, otherwise it wouldn't be subconscious. So the best we can do is just trust. And when you said gods, I don't know that we're all gods. I think we are all part of the oneness of everything. So I just put that as
Yes,
one
yeah,
singular
I
God,
said that
absolutely.
wrong.
But
Yeah.
um, but yeah, and given that there's some plan that's bigger than what we know our individual parts of, the more we allow the flow to take us to where we need to go, the more the other jigsaw pieces kind of fall into place too. And then suddenly you've got a group of 5 people that are going, hey, we've all got this common vision, and you've got the bit, and my dad's got a barn, that expression, but you've got
Yeah.
all the different component parts to put it together, perhaps. Or um, and that's, I suppose, the interesting part of life, is to just see the serendipitousness of when those kind of things come together. It's the only thing that
Well,
keeps
and
me
even like,
going.
well, we're we're um meeting people like online, like since we've started this podcast journey. Oh my goodness. And it's just it's so funny. And again, just how it all started was, I was sitting at my sewing machine, and I was listening to these people, and I was like, I feel like I know these people. And it's just the way that they talked, and like I just, like, what they were saying was really resonated with me. And it's like, I wish I could talk to these people. And these people are Chris Matthew and Karen Holton and Rob Khalil, like all of these, like they're podcasters, and now they're friends. And it just, and by putting that out there, it drew like the synchronicities even with that. Like Karen Holton lives just an hour and a half away from us. Like she's just an hour and a half north in Red Deer. And on a side note, she is somebody I would love to have the opportunity to talk with you and her at the same
Yeah.
time. Like that is a dream because she is amazing, and I think you two would like yeah, it would be awesome. But I yeah. And then we've also come to find out that um there's two couples that we know of that share very similar stories. They were now the one couple, I'm not quite sure where they relocated from, but they found themselves in the West, like in Western states by the Rockies. And then another couple, they went from Washington D.C. area to the Rockies. And then Dawn and I know the story going across Canada in 2.5 days when it should have been a week. And it's just, and we're all lined up and just similar stories. And it just, and as Donna and I grow and we find out more information and we heal, more of these really cool synchronicities and parallels are being drawn into our lives. It's really cool to see.
It's a bit like the search algorithms. When you search for something on the internet, you get more of what you're searching for.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Um, one of the other things I wanted to say, when you were talking about how as you grow and you learn and you dig, you have certain beliefs, but then when you find out more information, then you kind of change, like you change directions and build on what you knew. And I just wanted to tell you. So I just mentioned Karen Holton. She's changed her word belief to working theories.
Yeah, yeah. I was reminded back in 2008 when Obama got in as the president, and I know nothing about politics. I don't purport to know anything about politics, but I'll just say as a
Yeah.
general principle, everyone was behind him. It's like, yeah, like a black man can get it, and yes, we can, and there's hope for the future and all of that. So there's two things going on. Like one is him, and the other thing is the intention of all of those people, and that intention was good. The outcome, looking in retrospect, you go, well, do you still believe that he was a great guy? And up to you as to what you think about that, but see how a belief can change over a period of time. You don't have to
Yeah.
hold on to it. It can still bear you through this notion that something's happening and something can be better. And perhaps that was enough of a purpose for that. There might be subsequent people who do the same thing, give you hope, and then, end up not being the thing. But it might bear
Mhm.
you from point A to point B. It might cause you to learn things that you didn't realize before about how the world actually works and stuff like that. So, yeah, I'm just thinking that beliefs are like taxis. They get you from there to there, but when you get to there, you don't carry the taxi around with you. You get out of it and you walk away, sort of thing. So it's okay to change beliefs, I think, to be aware that
Yes,
they're not set in stone, and that they might serve a
yes, yeah.
purpose, even if you believe something that's not true, or that you believe something that's true but is not good, or whatever. It kind of doesn't even matter at a certain level. It's just that it got you from there to there, and that's what it needed to do. So that's just
Yes.
another.
Well, yeah. And even like, well, and that's the other thing. And I think it's important that, yes, people need to understand and recognize that, because like I've had it thrown in my face, because like where I stood strongly for something, and like was very vocal about it, and then after time it's like, oh, okay, yeah, no, that's not cool. And so I owned it, but I had it thrown in my face, and it's like, well, this is what, that's not what you thought. And it's like, no, that was then, this is now. Like I've done, I've done my homework, and I've found out more. And so that, um,
Well,
but
there's
I think the
form.
other important,
Sorry, go on. Yep.
no, I was going to say, like, the other important thing though is to also, like when you figure it out, and like if it ends up not being such a great thing, forgive yourself for, because you figured it out. But it also is a great way to find out where you were, like where your head was, if you need to do any healing. Like it's a great analysis tool, I guess, is where I'm going.
That too. And there's also to bear in mind that there's form and there's substance. And the form is the shape something takes, and the substance is obviously the energy that goes on inside it all. You might be expressing certain substance through a particular form, but the form might change, but the substance might remain the same, or something to do with waves and particles too, but I'm not scientific either, so I don't know. But but yeah, there's an intent behind things. People might believe certain things have to happen for the good of the climate, for instance. Other people might not believe the narrative that's put around that, but they all have the same intent, that let's conserve the planet, let's do something good for the planet. Everyone's got good intent, but they've got totally opposite ideas of how you put that intent into form. And we've got to remember that a lot of the time we actually do share the same intention. We all want peace and freedom and all of those kind of concepts, but
Yeah.
people have perhaps opposite ways of how they see that has to take place. And so sometimes it's a case of not being too attached to the form as well, because that
Yes.
can change.
Yeah. Well, that now you've given me something to think about. Like that's curious, like with the intent, with the intent being the same, but the ideas being different. Which way would that actually go? I guess that's the part where we get to sit back with the popcorn and watch how the universe lets it play out, eh? Is that
Yeah, well, that too. It's like we've got no control over all of that stuff that's going on out there, and it's crazy, and it's just stupid, and it's all of those things. What can you do except just watch it play out, and not go into fear about it? I suppose, like, that's important, isn't it? Like, to keep the vibration, the frequency light, and to keep, like, hope, as it were. But we can see good things playing out. We can feel them out there on the horizon, can't we?
Oh yeah. Yeah, well,
Even though it looks
there's
the
little
opposite. Hmm.
I I see little tidbits of hope. Like I don't think it's going to be like I feel like the light's winning. Like like it looks doom and gloom, but we also have to remember who controls the news too.
Yes.
And I think we need to look for like the little tiny wins. And just as an example, there's a podcast that I listen to every week. It's called the Winning Report, and it's put on by a woman by the name of Lindsay Sharman. Her channel is Rogue Ways, and so she jumps in there, bless her, and finds the mainstream headlines. And but she also looks at everything from all angles too, and like reports what's going on. And but she also does it from a perspective of like, okay, this is what they're saying and this is what's actually going on. And but one of the things she was saying the other day, and I don't I think she may have overlooked, or not, may not have seen this perspective. She was talking about a study that was done about that certain um a few years ago. and about the transmission of it. Yeah. And um it it was I won't go into what the study what is about, but basically she was saying about how it was a huge waste of money, and it was a waste of time. And the money part, I absolutely agree with her, because you know how those studies go, right? But I don't know if it was a complete waste of time, because that's one of those little things that I think could potentially backfire on those that are trying to control the story here, because that's the audience. Like, it's this was in mainstream. This study was saying that this thing wasn't it wasn't as contagious as what they initially thought. Like, it wasn't transmittable through. But basically, where I'm going with this is that the people that believe this and tried to push that storyline are the ones that are going to be reading that study. And so, even though it was a waste of money, all it takes is just one person to be like, hey, wait a minute. Like, and it's things like that um like, even just one person, that it clues them in that we've been lied to. And then they tell another person. And so it's just the tiny little things. And then she was also saying about electric vehicles. And I guess there was something, I don't know if there's like a survey done about people that own them, if they would purchase another one, and it'd be like no. And the sales are way down, and it's not going the way that people wanted it to go. And so it's those little tiny things that we need to hang on to, because those tiny things are going to keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, yeah, and there's big things out there too that are good somewhere.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time, it's not even worth spending time engaging in the back and forth of the duality playing itself out there. It's
Yeah.
it's like, just go and create what you want to create, and hopefully others will come and play too.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah. Well, and I think it is important to just keep creating, because that's what's happening. Like, I'm finding, like, at my workplace, I march to my own drum. And I'm surrounded. I love my coworkers. But I'm the only one in the sewing room that was born in Canada, and does was raised in this culture. Everybody else has come to Canada at some point in their life. And so they're, like, we're all, like, we get along beautifully, but we're all very different. And so I find myself doing a lot of things by myself, and I'm fine with that. And one of the things is, I go out for walks at lunchtime every day, because I want to go to the park and see the birds and hug a tree or whatever. And but what's really cool is, my my best friend here in Alberta, she's from China. And anyway, she didn't want to go out walking or anything. She just wanted to work. Like, she'd get into flow state. And I actually have to remind her to eat, because she just gets in the zone. Like, and she's so happy, she's so content, but I have to basically poke her. But she's seen me. Like, she asks me every day when I come back, oh, how was your walk? And so I'll tell her about the birds that I've seen, and all that. But anyway, she started coming with me. And since she started coming with me, another coworker, she doesn't come with us on our walks, but she has started walking around the building. And I just notice and I also notice like little things that I'm doing at work. Some of the other ladies will do the same thing. Like, and I know that they're watching me, and like I'm trying to work as efficiently as I can, and they're taking note. And where I'm going with this is like, if we don't know who we're impacting by just being ourselves and shining our light, and
Mm.
it's fun. And when you start seeing it, like, and I did an ego check, it's like, okay, and is it like, okay, are we, no, it's actually happening. And my friend even told me, she's like, you have inspired me. I see you going out for a walk. I see how happy you are when you come back. And so, and even with that, like, she's getting in more exercise, she's getting in more fresh air. So who is she impacting?
Mm. It'll, yeah, chain reaction. So,
So I'm just looking to see. Oh
pause.
wow, we've been going like an hour.
Yeah, what's the time? Where are we? Uh,
But no, I'm seeing that like the vibration is so key. And the other thing I'm learning is how our emotions have been weaponized. And they were, I think, like, what I'm understanding is that basically they're more like like they're a guidance system, kind of like a gas tank. And so, like, if you're feeling like, obviously, if you're feeling down, you're running at a low vibration. If you're feeling high, then you're high. And but the way that, I mean, I like, so many of us have been raised is to stay in our emotions and have a pity party, and just remain there. And
yeah,
it's I'm just I'm learning now, thank goodness. And I'm trying to pass it on to my son. It's like, no, you don't hang out there. It's just telling you that your vibration is really low, your gas tank is low, and you need to, if you want it, you can dig yourself out. That's the other thing that I have learned, is that I I think, like, looking back, I probably did stay in a pity party for a while. And this is not an easy thing to say.
yeah.
I
Well,
also didn't realize, yeah,
I was going to say the
I didn't know I
tendency is
could,
for people to make that their story, as it were,
yeah,
um,
yeah,
and keep retelling that as the story, as opposed to, this is just the terrain that I was passing through at the time, and it was muddy terrain,
yeah.
it was rainy and stormy, but then we moved forward and the sun came out, and it's just a passing thing, and we've got to be okay with even that, and even low vibrations. Now, there's a thing, an idea that I thought, which is, if you can feel it, you can heal it. And it came about when I was watching years ago. There were earthquakes in Christchurch in New Zealand, and it was like you could just feel everyone's heart go out to these people that had suffered. And the same for any kind of disaster or anything that's happening. Your heart goes out and you think, oh, they're there and I'm here and there's nothing I can do. But if you're feeling that feeling of what they'd be feeling, then you're holding that feeling within yourself and it has a certain vibration. So, but because we're not going through that horrible thing, we're sitting in the comfort of our lounge chairs at home, you can actually choose to bring consciousness, the light of consciousness, into that feeling and ask for it to be healed and transmuted. Bring the light
Ah,
in, feel that within yourself. So then what you're doing is you're taking that frequency that you're feeling and you're lifting it. And in the same way as, these are not the same frequency, but if I had two tuning forks of the same frequency, one would start vibrating the other one. Um, when you've got two tuning forks of the same frequency, one of them will start vibrating the other one. So you vibrating that healing within yourself to lift that frequency is actually going to attune that happening out there as well. So even when you're in your most dismal, dim states, you're able to go where angels fear to tread, where angels are physically incapable of treading, because it's such a dense vibration that they can't get there. But that's why we're here. We can reach that dense vibration and call the light of consciousness into it, thus attuning it to a higher frequency and causing that to lift out there at the same time. So, like, we judge about everything. We think that being in a low state is a bad thing. No, it's actually a useful thing for certain purposes too. So, just another way of looking at things. Not saying it's the truth, it's just a way to look at things.
Yeah. No, I love that.
So if you can feel it, you can heal it.
I wrote that down. I'm going to carry that with me. And no, like my takeaway from this is we really are really powerful, and probably a lot more powerful than what we realize.
Definitely a lot
And
more powerful. Yes.
that's something that I wanted to ask you too, because like I remember you mentioning, and it's funny. Just gonna do a little backstory here in a comparison. Um, so when I did my spinning course, I was invited to join the spinning group. Yeah, I did my first spinning course. I was invited to join the spinning group with the instructor, and I went there, and these ladies were so knowledgeable, and they were using terms and stuff. It was all over my head. I had no idea for, I'd say, probably about 2 years what they were talking about until I went to the spinning course. And then everything made sense. And so then when I went to the meetings after they went to the spinning course, it's like, okay, this is what they were talking about. And that's one of the really, really cool things, like with all of the information that you've shared with me over the years. A lot of it I knew it was going to be useful, but where I was, I didn't really get it to the level that I get now. Yeah. So that's I remember one of the things that you sent me was in regards to a torus field, or you said something about being a toroid or something. Can can you elaborate? Yeah. How
No,
does
I don't remember anything about it now, except that I think everything apparently energetically moves in a toroidal field. I think there was something also about that, that we have a torus that goes through our body, and if you can lace your intention through the toroid in your heart, it has to
Okay.
manifest something like that. But
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, that makes sense. Um, no, I wasn't sure, because I've seen it come up a few times, and I just, yeah. Anyway, that's cool. Um, so is there anything else that like any other words of wisdom? Yeah, okay, art wise, what are you working on? So that's the other thing. Helen is an amazing artist. She's like vibrant colors, and like she touched on the collages that she did many many years ago. She made me a collage of
oh, yeah.
pictures that, yeah, that she got from like from my Facebook, and that was my cover photo for years. I still have the graphic somewhere. I should dig that out. But what do
Well,
you have cooking right now?
well, where I live, it's just a small remote town, but we have a local art gallery, and now I'm the president of the arts group here. So we have a new exhibition about every 6 weeks or so that we have to put up, and open the exhibition. I had one with a friend a couple of at the beginning of this year, and I suppose you can see this painting. I just like bright colours. I can't actually paint, things properly or anything like. It's just the excuse to put bright colours together. And one of the things that I came out with was this is my handbag. This is just a doodle that I did years ago, and I took photos of it and applied it to these things. So again, nothing skilled about it. It's just doodling, but it's good. I enjoyed the artistic process, I suppose. And even that, like sometimes you feel inspired and other times you don't. And if, when people say, oh, I'm not an artist, I can't do art, they probably just never tried during a time that they felt inspired to do it. Because if you try when you're not inspired, it's just rubbish. Like you can be totally convinced that you're not an artist, but people should try it anyway. Keep trying at it. We'll keep just doodling.
Absolutely. Well, and it's funny that you say that, because when I did a course many moons ago, and it was called So Resourceful, and the instructor, she was a fiber artist, and we were sitting there sewing, and she called us fiber artists. I'm like, what? And she said, no, you are an artist. And so she broke it down, and she, like you're being creative, and like just because you're not using a pencil and paper or paint and a canvas doesn't make you an artist. And when she said that just it just opened my mind. It's like, oh, wait a minute. And even just accepting that title, it's like it changed it, like it changed my world, because now I have a lot more confidence. Like crocheting is my jam. I can sit down and do things like free form and without patterns and stuff. And I look back, and if she hadn't have said that, like if she hadn't have called me an artist, I wouldn't have got into that headspace.
She gave you
And
permission to be an artist.
yeah. No, it's so important. Like I would encourage everybody, just let her rip. Like whatever speaks to you, if it's texture, if it's color, and you're not just limited to one medium. And it's fun, it's therapeutic. Like just grab a coloring book and some pencil crayons and just let her rip. Like
And I can hear all these people going, oh, I don't have time for that kind of. And again, see, that's the rational side, putting down the intuitive
yes.
side, saying you're not valid. You're allowed to give yourself time to play too.
It's essential. If you don't, you will burn yourself out. And ask me how I know.
Yes. So
Well, there was one point, it was probably about 5 years ago. I actually did literally work myself until I passed out. And it was like I did not take time out for myself. I didn't rest. I kept on pushing myself. I wouldn't allow myself to play like with color or crocheting. Like I was always constantly beating myself up. And I ended up having to take a week off work with no pay. So it's like I just it is that important that you take care of yourself and you do take some time out, because you're allowed to, like exactly what Helen said. You have to give yourself permission, or else if you don't get it out, then your body, like if you don't take care of your body will make you take care of it.
yeah, that too. Nice body. Oh dear. So
Okay, well, so yeah, did you want to tell everybody where they can find you? Did you want to do a plug for the art gallery? And we can include links in the description if you like.
Oh, I mean, unless you're within range of our little town, it's probably too far away for most people to be here. But the book is called Spirit Seeds, and it's on Amazon. And if you put the words Spirit Seeds by Helen Downs into your search algorithm, you'll get a whole pile of other books that have nothing to do with that first, because they paid for their search results, which is ridiculous, isn't it? You search specifically for something and something else comes up because
Wow.
they paid. Like, where's the logic in that? Anyway, but yeah, that's there. It makes for a good gift for a friend. Like, people like us talking about this kind of stuff, people that are listening are probably already into this sort of stuff, but their friends might not be into this sort of stuff, and that's kind of who the book's good for. Although, I don't know, sometimes it triggers ideas anyway. And as to, I don't know, I think that's all. I think we just need to remind people to be kind to yourself, and don't let your left brain push down your right brain. Don't let your logical side totally overwhelm your intuitive side, as if the intuitive side has no validity, because obviously it does. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a brain with two hemispheres in it. The whole scientific model needs to remember that.
Yes,
And
yes, yes.
yeah, that's pretty
Okay.
much it.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Helen. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk. Like I learned so much. I wrote some notes, and I'm just gonna say it again. What Helen said: if you can feel it, you can heal it. Just please remember that.
Yeah, just remember to
And
bring the light of consciousness into even your most dark, depressed states, because by doing that, you're actually serving everyone else who's going through the same thing. Like, if each of us lifted those um, gravity anchors within ourselves, it would lift out of the collective. So yeah.
that's
Anyway,
that's
so nice
awesome.
to see
Well,
you.
yeah, yeah. Well, if you want to stick around for a couple of minutes after I wrap up, then we can say goodbye. But in the meantime, I want to thank everybody for tuning in, and stay tuned. I've got Jennifer Halcam coming up. Well, I'll be airing that one next week. Um, she is the lovely wife of Chris Matthew, who runs Forbidden Knowledge Network. And I'm looking forward to talking to her. She's going to be talking about Reiki and some of her healing modalities. And hopefully this weekend, I can find some time to do another crocheting tutorial. I'm not quite sure what to do next, but I'll figure something out. So, anyway, thank you everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you again. I love you guys.